I'm Chess.com's very first coach of the month and a two-time Australian champion, and in this vid I'm going to show you how to use the pawn structure based on a very nice game by Philidor, actually an analysis he did back in the 18th century. And in the opening we can already see that white has taken the center with the pawns, right? After takes, c takes d4, black didn't know to play the move of bishop b4 and get rid of the center on the next turn. Instead, he played move bishop b6, to which white played a move knight c3, castles, knight e2. And okay, I realized, that white could have played the move e5 earlier, and that, black in turn could also play knight e4 and use the fork trick to eliminate the center. Of course, such things are why Philidor was not considered a particularly strong chess player by modern chess standards. But there was still a lot of value that we can get from looking at his games, as we will see by going a little bit deeper. As after d5 and e5, we see now that white has a kingside and central majority, whereas black is going to have more of a queenside majority after some more moves that we see here, where we can see, white having a 4-2 majority on the kingside, while black has a 4-2 majority on the queenside. If you're enjoying this video, do make sure to leave a thumbs up, and also you can subscribe to get more of my daily Grandmaster training. My mission is to provide better free content than any chess resource you've ever paid for. Whether we succeed ultimately comes up to you, but certainly by hearing your feedback, it'll help us to make things better and better. Sound good? Alright, so at this point you might have been wondering, well, Max, can't black just play the move of d4 and win a piece? The problem with that is that white can now play the move of knight takes d4, and if takes and takes, black actually can't take the bishop here, because we've got a bishop h7 discovery, and then when they get out of check, we will take the queen. So this is why black played it differently. Probably black should actually just take and just try to trade the queens and, get into an endgame is probably how black should approach it. Kind of interesting point, the double pawns actually aren't so bad for black. You do get to push the pawn. You get a half-open file for the rook, so not like a weakness in its own right, but the game saw bishop e6. We're going to look at a little bit more from white's point of view. So take, castles, and a move like queen g5 would admittedly be a little bit annoying here. This is something that Philidor's imaginary opponent did not play, but, that Greco would have played this move in 30 seconds or less, right? But knight d7 was played, and this allowed white to get rid of the bishop and start to get the pawns rolling. If you're able to get an f5 and e6, well, you can see how our pawn's getting a lot closer to queening, right? And an extra space can also even potentially give us a very good attack against the black king, we might add. So black plays the move of g6 to try and stop f5. White plays the move of h3, trying to prepare g4 and f5. Now, of course, the Illingworth principle didn't exist back then because, well, Philidor was born like nearly 300 years before I was. But the Illingworth principle says, well, if the idea is to prepare the move of f5, well, check first if you can play it immediately. And it turns out you actually can, because you are going to get the pawn back, and then you will have a very strong attack on the open black king. But, okay, like I said, we can't blame Philidor for not knowing a principle that was invented, 300 years after his time. He played a move to the more slow h3, which is still fine, by the way. d4, knight e4. I mean, taking the pawn is kind of leaving the king just to get mated, basically. So black plays the move h6. b3, threatening bishop c4 to win, well, at least win some material. b5 stops it. g4, trying to go for f5. The other thing with g4 is you are weakening the king a little bit, and black took advantage of that by playing the move knight d5, trying to jump into that beautiful outpost on e3. Knight g3 is a good move, preparing f5. Knight e3, and here I would just keep it simple. I'd probably just go rook f2 and, just wait for the right moment to get rid of the knight or sack the exchange at a better time. Because the way that Philidor played it with rook takes c3, the problem with this move order is that now you're allowing black to play the move rook takes a2 and even potentially take this guy over here. Whereas if you started with rook f2 first, you don't have that problem, right? So you get the compensation of, pushing your pawns and queening them, but without, black having the counterplay. Turns out the move rook b2 is technically very strong, but okay. Like I said, Philidor's maybe only about 2,000 strength at the time that he was playing, so not like a 200-300 strength player in Greco, but yeah, after Queen B3, Queen E4 is a nice point. We don't want to trade the queens just yet, at least not without getting something for it. And after Queen E6, again, Queen takes G6 is probably the best move objectively. Saying that you're not that concerned about Rook F4, because you do have E6 and you can queen your pawn to kind of make up for losing these pawns in a way. But in the game, Philidor plays F5, and Black plays take, and now decides to play the move of Queen D5, which is probably not the best, but okay. You're never going to get perfection in a YouTube chess video. Let's put it like this. After takes, the point is that now we can go yum-yums with bishop takes b5, which also hits the knight as well as taking the pawn. And Black now has to defend quite precisely. Move like knight to c5 and like try and get the piece into the attack is probably the way in which Black should try to defend. Because the problem now is that White has the connected pass pawns, right? Which actually outweighs the fact that Black is currently up the exchange. That is a rook for a bishop. F6, and if White does manage to get in the move of E6, well then my past chess coach Ian Rogers saying comes into play, that two connected pass on the 6 beat erroring up to a royal flush. The game saw Black not defend the best way. He played rook b2, which is okay, but unfortunately here you have to find rook b3 and just try to disrupt White's setup. If you give White time to prepare the E6 push, it's just going to be all over. Like here, Black already has to try to create some sort of counterplay here. Like apparently the only move is to play like rook b6. The idea being that E6 would actually run into rook takes E6. They can't take with the bishop because of the pin, but rook E6 they take, and they are able to kind of get rid of White's passes at the price of the exchange, which given we were up in exchange wasn't a bad deal anyway. But instead of finding rook b6 to keep the game going, Black plays knight d2, trying to get in a knight f3 fork in this way. The problem is it's just way too slow. White goes e6, plays the move f7. There isn't even knight f3 because the king is now blocking the rook. After knight f4, king g7, final precise move, bishop h5. And it's just no good way to deal with e7 and the pawn queening, and therefore Philidor's imaginary opponent resigned here. Let me know down in the comments below, what was your favourite aspect of this game? It's a potential for you to learn from each other, also to tell me what you like the most about this video, so I can give you more of it in the next ones. And yeah, on that note, I'll see you in the next training. Take care, and goodbye.